Nintendo ended their June 2026 Direct with the reveal of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a remake of the N64 classic, said to be reborn for the Switch 2, according to the press release. It's a short teaser, but that won't stop me from taking a closer look. So, ahoy folks, and welcome to another Toon Twist analysis. Ritz, grab that magnifying glass. Cause we're gonna comb through this short teaser to go over everything we can to see what we can learn about the game. So sit back, and let's see what we can find. We open with several shots showing this beautiful tapestry, depicting the Great Deku Tree, the Kingdom of Hyrule, and more. We never get a look at the full piece at once, unfortunately. But my friend Rick from the D-pad put all views that we do get into one concise image, allowing us to make out much of the full image at once. We see the upper right corner of the tapestry while the Kokiri get mentioned, and the left corner when the narration shifts to Link. This places the Great Deku Tree along the upper center. The cutoff is just below the Deku Tree, so it's hard to say how far down it goes, and how much more there is to this mural. While Hyrule Castle is to the right, this large castle wall along the bottom of what we can see might represent the walls around Castle Town. To the right, below Castle Town, is an elegant arc, and within it is a depiction of the Triforce. At first, I thought this might be the drawbridge to the Castle Town, but I actually think this might be the Temple of Time, the view through the Door of Time. These lines give the impression of a rounded, ornate ceiling, and it reminds me a bit of how the Temple of Time was depicted in the original game, its 3DS remaster, and even when the location returned in Twilight Princess. Truthfully, the accuracy doesn't matter too much, as this is an artistic mural, and likely not too indicative of the actual design used in the game. Below, in the center between the towers of Castle Town, is some sort of shining effect, but we can't see what's giving off the effect. There are also these pair of swirls, which look like something out of Wind Waker. In terms of smaller details, along the top of the tapestry, there are at least 6 Kokiri children depicted along the top banner. Each one is accompanied alongside a white fairy. They are surrounded by various plants, rocks, and pots, much like how they're found when exploring through Kokiri Forest. The top banner is also depicted along an open scroll, as we can see the curled edges on the right. While the topmost lining doesn't seem to be anything of interest, the lining around the central artwork is more interesting. This depicts a repeating pattern of an eye in 3 forms: open, staring forward, looking upwards with more space below, and looking upwards with less space below. The pattern repeats between these 3 versions of the eye, and it makes me wonder if it's meant to be a sign that this tapestry could have perhaps been made by the Sheikah, even though it's not the full Sheikah symbol. We can also make out that the top of the tapestry is hung on a golden bar, fixated to a stone wall, so this is likely on display in Hyrule Castle. Seeing this mural at the start of the trailer reminds me of games like Wind Waker, opening with the Legend of the Hero. Though, it also reminds me of the opening to Tears of the Kingdom, with Link and Zelda finding the murals. Using the tapestry here in this trailer is actually pretty similar to one of the Tears of the Kingdom trailers too, in fact. And the fact that Link is depicted on this tapestry, sleeping, adds to the idea of it being similar to the Legend of the Hero in older games. This is seemingly part of a set of murals depicting the events of this game, Ocarina of Time. The real question is if we'll be able to see these murals at all in the game, like Tears of the Kingdom's mural seen in the intro. Maybe we'll see these at the end of the game? Before we get to the shot of actual Link, and not the one on the tapestry, there's one more part that I want to talk about here: the narration. It's actually strikingly similar to the narration to the opening of the original game, with one key difference. Here's the full script for the original intro. In the vast, deep forest of Hyrule, long have I served as the guardian spirit. I am known as the Deku Tree. The children of the forest, the Kokiri, live here with me. Each Kokiri has his or her own guardian fairy. However, there is one boy who does not have a fairy. And here's the full narration from the trailer.
Long ago, there was a land called Hyrule, created by beings of supreme divinity. At the very edge of this kingdom, there lay a small forest. Within it, an ancient solitary tree quietly watched over the inhabitants of the forest. These forest dwellers were called the Kokiri. Each had a fairy companion. and they lived out their innocent lives in these woods. However, there was one particular boy who did not have a fairy.
While it no longer reads like the Deku Tree himself is narrating, and instead reads like a legend being told after the fact, this is pretty much the same information, presented in a very similar manner: narration. After noting the boy who did not have a fairy, it transitions to Link, sleeping in bed at night, troubled by some sort of dream or nightmare. Very much like the introduction of the original game. So, yes, I think what we actually just watched with this trailer is the brand new opening to Ocarina of Time. After the Triforce symbol flashes on Link's hand, I'm pretty sure the very next clip would be a brand new version of the nightmare that he has, of seeing Zelda flee the castle and his first proper encounter with Ganondorf. That also means I'm pretty sure everything seen here is representative of in-game quality and cutscenes, and not simply a CG trailer. Okay, now let's finally take a look at this shot of Link. We see Link laying in bed asleep. He's not wearing his hat or boots, but is still wearing his green Kokiri tunic. It looks to be made out of grass, straw, or other plants. We can see the seams where it's woven together, and the tied-off ends of each thread at the bottom. There are also parts of his outfit that are leather, the belt in particular, though it's clearly an adult's belt that barely fits Link. You can see where it's buckled is so far down that the excess amount is looped through the rest of the belt. Link's a small kid. The rest of the leather of his tunic clashes a bit with the rest of the woven outfit he's wearing. There were intricate patterns and designs adorning it, such as the swirls below the belt, and multiple layers holding the straps together along his back. The swirls down here are reminiscent of the crest of the Kokiri, and along his shoulder strap on his back is a repeating pattern of an eye, and one that reminds me of the Sheikah eye, thanks to these little extras along the sides. Though he's not wearing it, we might be able to see his hat too. On the left, what seems to be Link's pointed hat is resting atop a wooden branch or log near the bed. It also appears to be woven just like the tunic. There's a pattern along it in a lighter green, but it's hard to make out exactly what it is. Along the bottom looks to be a leather lining, with more of those swirl patterns. There are a few beads decorating part of the bottom of the hat as well, almost like putting pins on a beanie or something. It helps add a bit of charm and personality, especially if we end up finding that every Kokiri accessorizes differently. Beyond Link himself, his room has also had a significant upgrade. The camera seems to be peering into the treehouse from an opening up above. There are various leaves, some probably for decoration, and some simply from the tree the house is built into. The bed is made of straw, with a pair of pillows and blanket all woven just like Link's tunic. The bottom of the bed seems to be stone, and there's a curtain along the side of the bed, presumably to be able to close for privacy. And I guess the only reason Link didn't close it here is for convenience sake of being able to bring the camera down on him. Or it's for the window behind Link's bed, like the original game had. There were also these small green lights. They move and pulsate, almost looking like small jellies or slimes. But I think they're just meant to represent forest fireflies. I just think they look a little strange is all. As Link struggles in his nightmare, the symbol of the Triforce begins to glow on his hand, marking his destiny. The bottom right triangle is the one glowing the strongest, as it's the one that lingers the most as it fades, which lines up with being the Triforce of Courage, if Link were looking at his own hand. This is interesting, because the Triforce doesn't split into three until after he pulls the Master Sword, which then gives Ganondorf the Triforce of Power and Zelda the Triforce of Wisdom. Is this because he's having a premonition in the future that ultimately all comes down to time travel and the role that time will play in the future? Or is the lore here changing a bit, making Link already chosen to wield the Triforce of Courage? It doesn't always stay on his hand like it does in, say, Twilight Princess, though. It fades in and fades away. And it's also worth noting that the Triforce is appearing on his left hand. After Skyward Sword and the Breath of the Wild era Link being right-handed, it looks like we're finally back to left-handed Link, as was true of the original Ocarina of Time. Then, of course, we have the logo. Now the text is gold rather than red, and styled like the newer Zelda logos introduced with Breath of the Wild, where the text appears weathered and damaged. The design of the Master Sword in the logo is updated to match the modern design from the more recent games, such as the Breath of the Wild era. Previously, Ocarina of Time 3D simply preserved the original design of the sword used in the original logo, so we can get a good side-by-side of the updated appearance here, and the change is most obvious around the hilt of the sword. Again, this is basically the same design that has been consistent in the 3D Zeldas since Skyward Sword, but it's still an interesting change to note here. They didn't go back to the original design from Ocarina of Time, they're moving forward with the modern design. Okay, that's the initial look through everything, but there's still a bit more that I would like to go into here before we wrap up. First up, back to Link's room. Is this actually Link's room from the original game, just updated? We talked about how this room was updated, but taking another look at it, the shape of this whole section appears more circular, almost like it's a hole. The branch on the left can actually be seen further up on the right, making it seem more like it's effectively a rod for the curtain to fully cover the hole in the bed. So again, a privacy curtain. But why would you want that around a bed in your house if you're the only one living there? Well, maybe Link doesn't live alone this time. Rather than looking like a treehouse built along the side of a tree, this almost appears more like a bed placed in a nook in a much larger tree. Sort of like how the shops were set up in the Korok Forest in Breath of the Wild. So that would mean, instead of rock, this is actually tree bark, below and around the bed. So is Link's house completely built into a tree this time? Or do the Kokiri live inside the Deku Tree now? That would make sense with the tapestry depicting Link sleeping near the tree, but that would make the opening segment of exploring Kokiri Forest, then entering the Great Deku Tree as the first dungeon, pretty different. So I'm hesitant to believe this is an exact depiction. So, more than likely, the Kokiri may not have complete tree houses this time, and they may instead live in large trees with hollowed out spaces for them. And Link probably has some others living with him too. If that's the case, we could take a step back and think even more about the changes coming to this game. It's pretty clear at this point, this won't just be a one-to-one retelling of Ocarina of Time. It's not just Ocarina of Time 3D prettied up with HD textures, that's for sure. The presentation of the intro has changed, and the very lines themselves as well, even if the end goal of the information given is the same. Personally, I'm expecting this to be more of a reimagining of Ocarina of Time. The core story beats might be the same as the original game, but there might be a lot of changes throughout that make the experience ultimately feel like something new. And with that, that's everything I was able to find in this teaser for Ocarina of Time's remake. It's a shame that we haven't seen any gameplay yet, but I'm very excited for this game, and you can bet I'll be back as soon as we learn more about it. But what do you all think? Find something I didn't? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, please be sure to leave a like and of course subscribe for plenty more gaming goodness from me, including more on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But until next time, farewell everyone, and thanks for watching. Special thanks to my channel members at the Co-Star Luma tier. Kiss My Flapjack, Game Explained, Cerulean Piplup, Swiftjar, Simpsons 703, Thales Caesar, and Super Aiden 03.